Greetings, fellow humans. I am Hugh.
And I am Man.
And together we are definitely not two kobolds in a trench coat. We enjoy human activities, such as paying taxes,
having existential crises,
and RPG horror stories. Let's see what we've got today.
Today, we have a player who was ambushed by their character being introduced as a personal use slave, a guy who can't deal with the DM being a woman, and a DM who had to remove all female NPCs from the game because the teenagers couldn't control themselves.
Oh, I guess I'm a slave now. By Reddit user, just another Valerie. Alright, so this happened a few years back, but I was in a college tabletop group. There was one particular DM who ran games for most of the group, who we'll call George for this story. Anyways, I'm prepping for my first game with him, rolling character stats, figuring out my backstory, stuff like that. According to George, I'd be jumping in to replace another player who'd been team killed for being a constant thorn in the side of the other players. These players would be going to the Kenku Republic, or as George described it, Bird Russia, where my new character would be introduced.
I know this is going to go south, but I do have to say Bird Russia. I'm here for it.
And their archenemy, the United States of Tabaxi. So I go Aarakocra Artificer, and talked at length with the DM about how my character could own a gun store and how he could work with the ruling government. Well, come my first game, I am told by George to wait while he gets everything ready for my character's introduction. The party enters the main palace and meet the ruler, who offers them an assistant on the quest they're about to take on for him. Instead of the introduction that George and I had worked out, my character was dragged out in front of the other party members, feathers torn out, and severely malnourished with his legs and arms bound. This was not at all what we had agreed upon. George, however, decided to tell me that Aarakocra were second-class citizens, and that the ruler had taken my character for his own personal uses. Not a great start.
I know we've talked before about communicating with your DM and working things out and making sure that y'all are on the same page, but this is like a total bait and switch because they did work it out and then all of a sudden the DM's like, just kidding, I'm doing my own thing, not gonna tell the player. Like, what in the actual...
I'm all for surprising your players with stuff, but don't surprise them with being a personal use slave after you've agreed the backstory. It's a little bit cringe.
Don't just throw that in there. Not without talking to the person first. Oh my god.
The game continues, my new party taking my character and leaving the palace. They decide to stop in town to shop and restock when out of nowhere we're all asked to roll saves. Apparently the Aarakocra Rebellion decided they were going to have a magically enforced march in the capital city, and you never guess who auto-failed the saving throw. Oh, and don't worry about if my character was seen or not, as a photograph was taken with my character front and center. So now my character is being hunted by law enforcement. The party appropriately reacting with grabbing my character and running like hell out of the city. The party, however, decides to continue with the mission, finding the rebel HQ, easily findable in the woods next to the capital of course. As we travel through the woods, we're attacked, and I'm told by the party to hang back and hide as my character is still weak from being, imprisoned. Well, George springs a new and awesome, his words, mechanic, where whenever a party member is in an enclosed space, they need to roll a constitution saving throw, my weakest stat. I fail, and George tells me, your character has been teleported into a pocket dimension where he is tormented by his worst nightmares and memories. He cannot escape unless someone else lets him out. I didn't return for a session 2.
I feel like we've had a story similar to this where the DM just seemed to have it out for a particular character. I think it was like a half-orc or something like that. And it just boggles my mind when I see stuff like this. Like, why aren't you communicating with your players that certain races are considered second-class citizens? Why are you springing this on them? And then what's even the point of this character existing if you're literally just going to make him be like the brunt end of everything and then shuffle him off to a pocket dimension where he gets tortured forever?
Maybe everyone wasn't entirely honest about why the last player left. Maybe they just cycle in newbies to torture every week.
If that's what they're doing, I think it's working because I wouldn't return for a session 0. In fact, I'm surprised that I'm not surprised that you stuck it out because the bad stuff really happened at the end, the really bad stuff. Player has a problem with women. I'm his female DM, by Reddit user AvailableRegret304. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine introduced his friend to us, and we got along. Said friend then asked if he could join my campaign, which sounded fun to him, and I agreed after I'd done a session 0 with him and got a good impression of him. He rolled his character and joined the party. Now, I'm DMing for 3 IRL friends, 2 are guys, and our dynamic is very easy. We joke about each other and make stupid jokes about gender stereotypes, never crossing any lines though. For example, when I went into the kitchen to grab a drink with the headphones on, we play on Discord and Roll20, my guy friend said, "Good, exactly where a woman should be." Again, I take no offense at such jokes because I know he doesn't mean it in a harmful way, and we can all laugh about it. The guy who didn't respect me was another story. I recall one time where my players investigated an abandoned ship. There were no crew left, and they wanted to find out what happened to them. I wrote a little adventure around it, and then after a few hours, they found out and defeated the evil. I was glad everyone was having fun. Then the problem player said, "That was cool. Good job, Daniel." Daniel is a friend who had introduced us and has been playing for years, so he's got a lot of experience. I was confused, so I asked back, "Why Daniel?" To which the problem player replied, "Didn't he help you with it?" I said that, in fact, I wrote it by myself. There was an awkward silence, and then he just went with, "Okay." Like, he didn't believe me. It was weird, not gonna lie.
I feel like this is the D&D equivalent of a couple walk into a shop and the woman in the couple starts speaking to the shop assistant, but then the shop assistant just talks to her male partner instead.
Yeah, absolutely. This is 100% that.
And so the red flags begin.
There have been some minor things that have happened too, which just got me the feeling that he either doesn't like my style of DMing or my campaign overall. For example, he made snarky comments about every female character I introduced them, either being too annoying, too cliche, too babbly, or too childish. One comment stuck with me in which he said, "I don't know, why are you doing this? Women don't act like that." Big news, I'm a woman. I know how a woman acts and feels. He just then went with a snarky, "Yeah, whatever, maybe you're just not woman enough." Again, I rubbed it off as a poorly made joke since it's common for our friend group to joke about such things, but I realized that he started to make meaner comments. My voice was too high and screechy all of a sudden. My missions were boring, and my DM style was just not enjoyable. I talked to him about it and he just said he was sorry, he was going through a hard time. I told him that I understand that if he was in a difficult place, but not to let his frustration out on me. So I'm already seeing a couple of dog whistles here that are like very misogynistic. Her voice is too high and screechy. No, dude. No, that's a big red flag, in my opinion. Also, I'm really tired of people being like, "Oh, I'm being mean because I'm going through a hard time." Like, it just diminishes those of us who do go through hard times and aren't mean to other people.
Yeah, this guy is just one internet rant away from asking, is it gay to kiss a woman?
But then after another mission, I've had enough and realized that he was not just not having fun, but that he had a problem with women overall. The players needed a way to cross the ocean and they hired a captain. A female captain. I heard problem players sigh and focused on them negotiating the price of the ride instead. A short time later, they were on the ship and the captain asked them about their backstories a bit. Problem player answered, "I don't want to talk about it with some wretch." I was surprised, since the captain hasn't done anything besides taking them on her ship. Me as the captain, "I will not tolerate someone disrespecting me on my ship. You'd better watch your words." Him, "Yeah, whatever, dude." Me, "Your eyesight must not be working fine, for I am not a man, son." Somehow that triggered him to where he wanted to duel for his honor or something. I asked him out of game if he was sure since she was several levels higher than them, but he insisted, so they fought. He lost, of course, and when I tell you he was freaking out, he wasn't just disappointed he lost, he was straight up angry. We asked him to calm down since it wasn't the end of the world, and I told him to leave the call for a while to let steam off since it was very uncomfortable for us to hear him rant, to which he said, "Stop telling me what to do. No woman tells me what to do. You're not my supervisor!" And that was it. I realized that he just had a deeply rooted problem with women, fictional or not, and that all the snark he threw towards me was because of this. He left the call, and our friend Daniel said that he would talk to him, but I didn't want this guy back in my campaign for the sake of our other female friend, and everyone agreed. Don't know what happened after. Daniel hasn't mentioned him again. Maybe they ended their friendship. I don't know. I just hope this guy gets help.
Methinks the gentleman doth protest too much. Someone's been spending too much time in the darkest corners of the internet. Y'all need to fix your attitude to women there, dude.
Go out, meet real women, touch grass, please. If this is almost so cliche that it's trite, it's like, do you realize how unoriginal you're being, my dude?
To directly say, no woman tells me what to do? You are the dictionary definition of cliche misogynist there. The Femaleless Realms, featuring my little brother, his friends, and the All-Frogger, by Reddit user HG Modernism. I was really close to my little brother when I was in high school. He was the awkward type and didn't have a lot of friends and didn't talk much. When I suspected he was having a bad day, we played some Magic the Gathering. We bonded a lot over it, and he really enjoyed building decks for me. When I left for college, it was pretty hard on him for a bit, but we started playing Star Wars: The Old Republic to catch up. He told me he started making friends with some older kids who played Magic the Gathering and wanted me to play with them when I came back for the winter break.
Before everything goes to chaos in this story, I just want to say I love how absolutely wholesome this first paragraph is. That is just some real wholesome brotherly love, and I'm here for it.
In college, I joined a D&D group and got super into it, and my brother always had questions. I told him for Christmas I would do a mini campaign for him and his friends while I was back for a few weeks. I spent all my free time not studying for finals, putting together a super flexible mini campaign, starting with Minds of Fandelver, but with lots of room to veer off the beaten path, because I wasn't sure what aspect they would enjoy. The whole plane flight home, I was filled with nervous excitement for my first DMing experience. And I remember thinking I was glad it was with beginners to take off the stress. Little did I know. We met the only place we could, given the weather, the back room of our small town's public library. It was my brother, 14, and 3 other kids, Sean, 15, Ethan, 16, and Kurt, 16. My brother had helped them set up and roll their characters, and let's say I had some side eye on their supposed roles. I decided not to worry about it since this was just a mini campaign, and I didn't see this getting in the way of the fun. The first session was honestly pretty slow and uneventful as it was mostly explaining rules. That last part had Kurt's elf ranger deciding to go fight some frogs in the lake with his bow. He wanted to roll initiative, and I told him he could probably just shoot them as they were just frogs. They all got into it and purged the entire lake of wildlife. I was confused, but also glad that they seemed to be having fun, if not entirely getting the point of D&D. They made a giant frog effigy of all the smaller frogs and paraded it into town, and that's where the session ended.
Oh my god. Frog effigy?
Out of the smaller frogs.
That's a big red flag. Like, this is murder hobo behavior. Also kind of really funny, but also murder hobo-y. But what did the frogs ever do to them?
I spent a lot of time that evening trying to figure out how to work the frogs they seemed to be really enjoying into the main campaign. I had this idea that a local druid who cared for the area and would confront them and lead them to meet the All-Frogger, a giant mythical frog who would challenge them to a fight for their frog-kind misdeeds. This was way off my prepared material, but I knew from the outset these kids would probably be a bit atypical and just wanted to make sure they had fun.
That's some brilliant DMing, just BT dubs, to roll with it and then be like, let's just make it more froggy.
When D&D gives you dead frogs, make a frog god. The second session started and they were all super excited. They had snuck snacks and Red Bull into the library back room and offered them to me as an awkward thank you, and I found that pretty sweet, to be honest. I had them pick up back in the town and told them they were approached by a druid who gravely asked them what they had done to all these frogs and why they created the effigy. They asked me what the druid looked like, and I think I said something like a serious middle-aged woman with a green cloak and staff. Sean yelled, "Hey, touch her!" What? I said, "I roll to touch her!" And then he whispered, "Boobs." And the other two started laughing. My brother's face turned white as a sheet, and he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. I kind of panicked. This was not what I was prepared to deal with. So I said, "Okay, you reach out to touch her," and she dramatically turns into the All-Frogger. This was just a disguise. Roll initiative. They had their first real combat and seemed to have completely forgotten about the druid. At first I wanted to quit because I felt way out my depth, but I really wanted my brother to have a good time. I made a decision. That druid was the first and last woman they would meet for the rest of the campaign. Every other NPC after that was mysteriously always male, but they never seemed to catch on and never questioned it. So it worked out well. My brother had a great Christmas present. I got to DM one of the weirdest campaigns possibly ever. And all hail the All-Frogger, savior of the campaign.
First of all, I know that there are jokes going around about like Gen Z and Gen Alpha like having, major mommy problems. How hard up are you that you're like all giddy about touching a middle-aged woman's chest? And that's nothing against middle-aged women or their appeal. I'm just saying for a teenage boy.
Teenage boys. You get to a certain age, some of them just lose all sense. These might be the kind of teenagers that are just a hair's breadth away from being the real-life Beavis and Butthead. Dated reference. Sorry, Zoomers.
For real, though, I do have to commend OP and their quick thinking. They had to roll with some punches, and they rolled real good, and that was very, very... That could have gone bad. That could have gone really bad and awkward, but you saved it with the All-Frogger. All hail the All-Frogger.
All hail the All-Frogger.
All glory to the Hypnotoad.
Hey, Hugh.
Yes, man.
Did you hear about the girls that loved vampires so much?
No.
They started a fang club.
And with that, we have definitely not been two kobolds in a trench coat. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make the necessary sacrifices to Tiamat. We'll see you next time.